A quiet highway, a dark forest, and a family's journey that turned into a nightmare. What Happened to Them in the Woods, written by Farri 0825. It was Friday, October 13th, 2023, around 9:45 p.m., when John Miller, his wife Emily, and their 6-year-old son Ethan set out on a road trip through a remote stretch of Route 66 near northern Arizona. The sun had just disappeared, leaving a fading crimson glow that quickly surrendered to an oppressive darkness. The highway stretched endlessly ahead, flanked on both sides by dense forest. Shadows moved in strange patterns beneath the swaying trees, their branches scratching against each other, creating sounds almost like whispered voices carried on the wind. Emily glanced at the looming darkness outside the car window, hugging Ethan closer. "John, are you sure this is safe? There's nobody around. It feels wrong." John forced a smile, though a knot of unease twisted in his stomach. "It's just a forest, Emily. Don't worry. We've driven this road plenty of times. Just a few more miles, and we'll be in Kingman." Yet even as he spoke, he felt eyes upon them from the shadows, and the hum of the engine suddenly sounded hollow, echoing unnaturally along the empty highway. Ethan yawned, rubbing his eyes. "Mommy, it's scary." His small hands clutched his stuffed dinosaur tightly. Emily reached back, stroking his hair. "I know, sweetie. Daddy's right. We're together. Nothing will happen." But the tremor in her voice betrayed the fear she tried to hide. The highway continued silently. The only sound was the tires crunching over scattered gravel and the occasional rustle from the forest. Then, without warning, the car shuddered violently. The headlights flickered and went out. John slammed the ignition. Nothing. "John, what's happening?" Emily whispered, fear creeping into her tone. Ethan whimpered, clutching her arm. John took a deep breath, forcing his voice to remain steady. "Stay here. I'll check the engine. I'll be right back." He grabbed the flashlight, stepped into the cold night, and immediately felt the oppressive weight of the darkness pressing around him. The wind seemed alive, whispering unintelligible words, carrying faint laughter that set his heart racing. Emily held Ethan tightly. "It's okay, honey. Daddy's just finding help. He'll be back." The whispers seemed to echo her words with mocking tones. Ethan whimpered and buried his face in her shoulder. John moved along the roadside, flashlight cutting a narrow path into the darkness. The trees seemed impossibly tall, their shadows bending unnaturally toward him. Shapes flitted at the edges of the beam, disappearing when he turned to look. Something about the forest was alive, aware of him, and it didn't want him to leave. A sudden flashback hit him. That morning, they had stopped at a diner in Flagstaff. Ethan had laughed uncontrollably while holding his dinosaur. Emily had teased him, and John had snapped a photo. The warmth of that moment contrasted sharply with the chill of the present. He finally reached a small gas station a mile back. The attendant agreed to follow him. Returning to the car, John found it empty. The doors swung open in the breeze. Ethan's backpack lay on the ground. His toy truck rested atop it. Emily's scarf fluttered across the hood. "Emily? Ethan?" His voice cracked, echoing down the empty highway. Only the wind answered, carrying faint, childlike giggles from every direction. Fear clawed at him. John plunged into the forest, flashlight swinging wildly. The forest floor was littered with broken branches and fallen leaves. Shadows moved unnaturally at the edge of the light. Every step felt like wading through unseen resistance. Whispers surrounded him. "Daddy, come to us. Don't leave." He stumbled deeper. Trees bent in impossible angles, paths twisted back on themselves. Every instinct screamed to run, but he couldn't leave his family behind. He noticed faint glowing footprints leading deeper, Ethan's toy truck sitting nearby. The whispers grew louder, overlapping, pleading, mocking. John paused, heart pounding. He tried to calm himself by remembering the laughter from earlier in the day. Emily smiling, Ethan's cereal-covered face at the diner. The forest seemed to consume these memories, twisting them into something sinister. Suddenly, movement at the edge of the flashlight. A glimpse of Emily's silhouette, then Ethan's small figure. He lunged forward. Nothing. The forest had swallowed them again. Hours, or maybe minutes, passed. Time lost all meaning. The whispering voices multiplied, turning into overlapping laughter and cries. A cold wind brushed his face, carrying the scent of damp earth and decay. The trees themselves seemed to shift around him, leaning closer, enclosing him in darkness. A soft giggle reached his ears. Ethan's, not distant, not echoing, everywhere at once. John's breath caught in his throat. Another whisper, "Daddy, help us." He ran blindly, his flashlight swinging, trying to reach them, but the forest looped him back to the clearing where the car had been. Falling to his knees, he pressed his palms against the dirt. "Please, not like this. Please." The wind howled in response, carrying distant echoes of children laughing, crying, calling. The darkness seemed to move, alive and hungry. Then, faint radio static. A voice broke through the silence. Authorities are investigating the mysterious disappearance of the Miller family along Route 66 north of Kingman, Arizona. John and Emily Miller, along with their 6-year-old son Ethan, were last seen late Friday night. The vehicle was found abandoned, belongings scattered. Witness report hearing strange sounds and voices in the forest. Search efforts continue. Travelers are warned to avoid this section of Route 66 after sunset. John froze. The words merged with the whisper surrounding him. The forest. It was alive. It was feeding on his fear, his desperation. Shapes began to coalesce at the edge of his flashlight's beam, barely human, twisting and dissolving. Emily's voice whispered, "John, come to us." He ran again, the forest bending and warping around him. Paths disappeared. The wind carried thousands of voices. Each step was heavier than the last. He fell repeatedly, tears streaming down his face. The flashlight flickered violently. Hands, cold and insubstantial, brushed his arms, his face. Shadows pressed closer, forming and dissolving, always just out of reach. John screamed, calling for Emily and Ethan. The forest seemed to laugh. The wind carried giggles, cries, and whispers from every direction. He collapsed against a tree trunk, gasping, shaking, unable to comprehend what was happening. And that's where part 1 ends. The terror is just beginning. The forest pressed in around John, thick and suffocating, every shadow twisting as if alive. The whispers had multiplied, overlapping into a maddening cacophony. "Daddy, come to us. Don't leave." Each word echoed from multiple directions at once, impossible to locate. He spun the flashlight wildly, catching fleeting glimpses of movement. Ethan's small figure darting between trees, Emily's silhouette twisting in impossible angles. But every time he ran forward, the vision dissolved. The ground beneath him seemed to shift, roots rising like serpents, tripping him with unnatural precision. Panic surged through his veins. He clawed at the dirt, trying to stand, heart pounding in his ears. Another flashback pierced his terror. That morning, Ethan had laughed while chasing a butterfly in the yard. Emily had scolded him playfully for running off. John had smiled, feeling content. The memory burned like fire in his chest, fueling a desperate hope that they were still alive somewhere. A low, rumbling whisper came from behind. "John, you can't leave." He spun around, flashlight illuminating a tree. Shadows writhed across the bark, forming faces. Ethan's small face, Emily's pale one, but twisted, hollow, eyes black and empty. He stumbled back, tripping over a root, falling hard. Pain shot through his legs, but he forced himself up. Branches seemed to reach for him, like skeletal hands. The forest floor was littered with Ethan's toys, scattered and glowing faintly. The stuffed dinosaur, a small truck, a backpack, all lay abandoned in a chaotic pattern. Each step he took toward them made the shadows move closer, as if mocking him, luring him deeper into the forest. A faint light appeared in the distance. Hope surged in his chest. He ran, calling their names. The closer he got, the more the forest warped. Paths twisted back on themselves, returning him to the same clearing where the car had been. Panic gripped him like icy fingers. The whispers rose to screams, overlapping, tearing at his mind. Suddenly the air grew colder. A soft giggle sounded directly beside him. Ethan. He spun. Nothing. Then another giggle from behind, and another all around him. The voices layered on top of each other, indistinguishable. He shouted their names, tears streaming down his face. But the forest swallowed his cries. The flashlight flickered violently. Shapes formed in the darkness. Emily and Ethan, but wrong. Their movements jerky, unnatural. Their eyes hollow, reflecting a light that didn't exist. Emily smiled, slowly, impossibly, whispering, "Come to us, John. Forever." Ethan's giggle echoed from everywhere, yet nowhere. He lunged, desperate, trying to grab them. His hands passed through mist, through illusions. The shadows closed in. His screams joined the cacophony of voices surrounding him. Every memory of his family, their laughter, smiles, warmth, was twisted into horror. The forest was consuming everything he loved, feeding on his fear, turning love into terror. John collapsed against a tree trunk. The whispers grew louder, forming words he could barely comprehend. "You cannot leave, neither can they. The forest watches, the forest takes." Cold hands brushed his arms, his face. He flailed, trying to escape, but the forest held him fast. Another flashback. He remembered loading the car earlier that day. Ethan had begged to bring his dinosaur. Emily had laughed and agreed. They had been happy, ordinary, unaware that darkness awaited them. The memory made his stomach twist. He screamed, punching the air, trying to reach them. Time lost all meaning. The whispers became voices, Emily calling for him, Ethan laughing, crying, whispering warnings. Shadows moved like serpents, twisting, forming figures he could barely recognize. The flashlight spun, its beam catching glimpses of hollow eyes, pale faces, and shapes that dissolved before he could approach. Suddenly, a sharp wind blew through the clearing, scattering leaves and debris. The whispers merged into a single, deafening scream. "You cannot leave, neither can they." John staggered back, his body trembling. The forest seemed to lean closer, pressing against him from all sides. He heard footsteps, soft, deliberate, approaching from behind. He turned. Emily and Ethan appeared, closer than ever. But their movements were jerky, unnatural, inhuman. Their hollow eyes reflected the pale light of the moon, and their smiles were twisted, cruel, mocking. John lunged, desperate, but the ground shifted beneath him. Roots and branches rose, entangling his feet, pulling him down. He fell hard, the flashlight skittering across the forest floor. The figures loomed over him. Emily whispered, "Join us, John. Forever." Ethan giggled, a high-pitched, bone-chilling sound. A sudden memory flashed, Ethan's first steps, Emily's gentle hand guiding him, their laughter. The warmth and love that had filled that day now twisted into horror. John screamed, pounding the dirt, clawing at the earth, but the forest would not release him. The whispers became deafening, a hurricane of sound. Shapes pressed closer, shifting, forming faces from his memories, twisted and hollowed. He felt cold. Insubstantial hands grasped his shoulders, his arms. Panic overwhelmed him. Then, silence, the flashlight died. Darkness swallowed everything. John felt himself lifted, pulled into the void of the forest. The whispers faded into soft giggles, faint footsteps, and the occasional distant voice calling his name. The highway remained empty. Travelers report hearing faint whispers and giggles late at night. The car, when found the next day, was abandoned. Belongings were scattered. No sign of John, Emily, or Ethan Miller. Locals warned Ifiri Okradi Route 66 near this forest after sunset. The forest watches, it waits, it takes. Some say that if you drive there late at night, you can hear whispers calling your name, giggles that follow your car, and shadows that dance at the edge of your vision. Those who linger too long are never seen again. The forest is patient, hungry, and eternal, keeping its secrets hidden in darkness forever.